Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the NYPD. I retired as a sergeant out of Manhattan North Homicide Squad. And with me today, oh my God, we have the old reliables in the top window. We have straight out of Brooklyn, retired Detective Phil Grimaldi. How you doing, Phil?
Pretty good, Billy. Excited to get into this episode. I'm glad Joe's with us. He's probably going to have a lot of tremendous input on the stuff we're going to discuss today about both of these cases. There you go.
That's right. We brought Joe in today because we understood last night in Duty Run's episode there was a little violence in the chat. Luckily, people can't get violent. They can only get violent with their voice. About as violent as they can get is writing in capitals, I guess, right? But so we brought so on the bottom window we have retired NYPD police officer and current defense attorney Joe Murray. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Oh, thanks, Bill. Glad to be here and looking forward to a little sparring, Philly.
All right.
It's always good to get the juices flowing and get the chat all stirred up a little bit because they like that. They like that. And we like it too, as long as it remains respectful. Folks, if this is your first time tuning in to Police Off the Cuff, please go on our YouTube, subscribe, hit that button, give us a thumbs up. We're building our audience, and we fell so far behind Duty Run once he had that 1.6 million episode and picked up 50,000 subscribers. I feel like I'm the turtle and he's the rabbit, and he's sprinting ahead and I'm just methodically plodding along. But Phil said before, slow and steady wins the race. So not that this is a race, but we're trying to go slow and steady, and with your support, we're doing pretty well. We were talking about earlier, of course, the Murdaugh case. I'm going to bring that up, but we also want to mention Summer Wells. It's sort of been put on the back burner. We're not forgetting about Summer Wells. I know that Equus Search has been back there. They search with drones, and no one is forgetting about Summer. There hasn't been any really new developments that we can report on, but believe me, none of us are forgetting about her. Phil, you want to comment on that?
Yes, we're going to be monitoring any new developments that do occur. I mean, with the onset of the colder weather, maybe there's a chance that people might, come across, I hate to even think of it or say it, the remains. So we'll keep our fingers crossed with that. I know law enforcement is still plugged into it. Obviously, as you said, Dave Rader and Equus Search, they're doing their thing. And we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope and pray that Little Summer's found, hopefully safe and sound. That would be fantastic. But either way, I know that the case is moving forward. I know the investigation is moving forward. So we'll be doing something on it real soon, I'm sure. Whether anything new to report or not, we'll go through it and just keep it fresh in everybody's mind. And prayers for Little Summer to be found.
100%. We're all
yes,
hoping
you guys.
for that.
I had heard, and that's why I want to verify it. That somebody had put up another 50,000 to increase the reward money, which that's great. It just shakes the tree, see what comes out.
That shakes the tree when someone puts up money like that. You never know. Someone that would keep their mouth shut otherwise may open it for $50,000, and that's definitely can help things. One of our English friends asked me, what does it mean to be a Monday morning quarterback? And we use that expression all the time, and we just take for granted that everyone knows what it means. And thank you for asking that question, because we shouldn't take for granted that our friends from across the pound knows what that means. A Monday morning quarterback is someone that critiques a football game after it's over by saying, I would have did this, I would have did that, I would have did this. So that's where the expression comes from, a Monday morning quarterback.
Obviously, the game you played on Sunday. Well,
yes,
Monday morning, you're an expert on Monday morning because you know what happened.
Right.
So you could sit there and critique, great minds in the sport of football that may not agree with your game plan, but the game's over, and you could say woulda, shoulda, coulda, like we all say. So we're just going to touch upon the Murdaugh case just in the beginning of the show, and I'm going to play a short. A short video, and it has to do with Gloria Satterfield, who was the housekeeper to the Murdaughs, and we're going to show what her attorney has to say about this case, and every step of this case is just like an incredible, something else incredible occurs. So let me put this up on the screen.
Sons of Gloria Satterfield, that housekeeper, well, they moved to sue Alex Murdaugh, who just had quite a week, as you probably know, supposedly at Murdaugh's behest. Weirdly, think about that. They sued him because he asked them to. And then he asked them to use a lawyer that he would supply for them. Oh, that's awfully nice. Quote, Alex Murdaugh told those kids, Tony and Brian, told their uncle and aunt, that he was going to take care of the boys because he was going to sue myself for the death of Gloria Satterfield. That's from a lawsuit that was filed this week by the family's brand new lawyer, who points out that the old lawyer, unbeknownst to Tony and Brian, he was a former college roommate of Alex Murdaugh and Alex Murdaugh's best friend and the godfather of Alex Murdaugh's son, Paul Murdaugh. That's just nuts. The lawyer's name is Corey Fleming. And there's also a name for that kind of arrangement that I just described. A lot of people call it conflict of interest. But since that's a legal term, I'm going to say allegedly. But if it's true, it's really big. For Gloria Satterfield's family, it was also very expensive because a few months later, Alex Murdaugh's insurance companies agreed to pay out. Yep, we got you covered. We're going to pay for that trip and fall, Gloria Satterfield. We're going to pay at least $500,000. But as it turns out, it seems it may have been much more. And when I say much more, like a hell of a lot more, like $4 million. And the family, well, that should have been great. That should have helped those boys, right? Now that they don't have their mom, they haven't seen a penny. So tonight, with the ink barely dry on their lawsuit, the family's brand new lawyer, Eric Bland, is asking the South Carolina bar to sanction that old lawyer, Alex Murdaugh's BFF, Corey Fleming. And it just so happens that Eric Bland is live with me now from Columbia. Welcome back to the program, Eric. Did I get anything wrong in that characterization of how the last 3 years went?
Barry, you're spot on. The only thing is I'm not asking the bar to sanction him. I just merely perform my duty to inform the bar as a lawyer of our state when I know that somebody else has possibly violated the rules of professional conduct. I'm duty bound to inform the bar, and then the bar does their own investigation. So I supplied them with a copy of the complaint, and presumably they will start an investigation.
So what does that mean for Corey Fleming? Because, the layperson in me says that's just icky. Maybe he should lose his license. But is there something more sinister? Is there something criminal to that?
I'm not going to venture into the criminal, but there is something that could jeopardize his license if the bar was to find that he had misappropriated money or assisted others in misappropriating money from clients or secreting material information from the clients in order to enrich others instead of his duty of fidelity to the clients. He could have his license impacted either through suspension or ultimately he could lose his license. Two things we were told in law school: never lie to your client, never steal money from your client. If you do, you're going to lose your ticket.
But we out here outside law school, we're told you're going to go to jail if you steal money from people. So that's why I asked. This sounds like he could be exposed also to the criminal procedures.
Like Al Capone went to jail for income tax evasion. He didn't go to jail for, all the killings that he did. I believe that this case is at the epicenter of what's going to happen ultimately in Hampton County to the Murdaughs and a lot of different people because of the amount of money that has not been accounted for and misappropriated. I think that ultimately people are going to lose their law licenses. I think there's going to be a real microscope into the judicial system and how this took place, where approvals were given for these type of settlements without them being on court record, without there being a court order approving these settlements. I think it's going to be a top to bottom look. And I really do think that at the end of the day, there's going to be a cleanup that happens because this is really an indictment on the South Carolina justice system. We don't like the way we're looking to the rest of the world and the nation. It's not who we are. And I really do believe that our Chief Justice and a lot of the people in the justice system are going to be looking at this, and it's this particular case that is going to cause a lot of people to have to take pause. You know, when you're
Wow. That's all I can say there is wow. Is that unbelievable, Joe?
Joe has no sound.
Joe, your sound is off.
All right, I got it. Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know, when you look at the
You,
underlying
you had your
case-
chance. You had your chance to shine, and then the attorney comes on and he's muted.
Listen, no, but honestly, Bill, looking at that underlying case with all the bodies and all the stuff that was been going on, you would think, you know, that's their biggest problem. And then this surfaces, you know, you're talking about a huge amount of money, client funds. He's absolutely right. Lawyers have a duty of loyalty to their client, which includes not stealing from them. You have to be loyal to them and truthful to them. So law licenses are going to be pulled, tickets are going to be punched. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of criminal stuff going on. This is incredible. And he's absolutely right. This is putting egg on the face of the South Carolina bar and, you know, the solicitors. I mean, this is bad all around.
Joe, I want to ask you a question that probably many in the chat and many all around the world are thinking. Who polices attorneys? And because the Bar Association is basically an ethical organization, but they don't go around with inspectors, right? Isn't it dependent upon other attorneys or judges to report an attorney who may be rogue?
It's dependent upon the people who always accuse cops of not of maintaining the blue wall of silence. Lawyers and judges constantly throw that in the face of law enforcement. But yes, we're supposed to police ourselves like this lawyer is doing. It became apparent to him what happened. He reported it to the bar, and the bar is supposed to now investigate it. There's a character and fitness. There's the grievance committee. There's all these committees that work on this. And believe me, when you get contacted by them, it's, you know, you got to deal with this because they can hurt you. And like he said, pull your license. So, but yeah, it is kind of self-policed unless people make complaints. Of course, like anything else, if people make complaints, they investigate that as well. So there's not proactive policing that goes on there. It's either self-reporting or complaints that come in.
Well, Joe, you remember from being a police officer, on the walls of every precinct, it says corruption must be reported to internal affairs, and it would have the number on it. It didn't say, you know, you can. It said corruption must. So in essence, cops are required to report each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We are too, as lawyers. We're required. You can't. It's not a choice. If you
it also said above every cell in the squad, only the guilty can sleep, and that worked pretty well because 99% of the guys that went in that cell went right to sleep. Went right to sleep.
Guys, I just want to play another quick video, and this is just showing how Miss Murdaugh, the one who was murdered, Maggie Murdaugh, was seeing an attorney a few weeks before the
No, let
murder
me make a
occurred.
point before you play it. I want to make a point based on what Joe was saying and what that reporter said. She was tiptoeing through it. She was, you know, saying, "Oh, lo and behold, it was his law school partner, and lo and behold, it was his best friend." That's a dirty, rotten scumbag move what this guy did. He took the family's confidence, said, "Don't worry, I'm going to take care of everything. I'm going to sue myself." He brought his buddy in to represent them, and then they didn't get 10 cents. That's a disgusting. There's no morals there. There's no ethics at all. Whether or not he faces criminal charges is, I think, irrelevant at this point. He crossed moral lines. He crossed ethical lines, and that family needs to be compensated for the loss of their mother. And I think that the case being investigated by SLED, by the State Law Enforcement Division in South Carolina, let's see what that yields as far as criminal charges on top of what's going to happen with this civil case.
100%. Let me hit you with this video right now.
A possible divorce. According to People magazine, just 6 weeks before Maggie Murdaugh and her son Paul were murdered at their family's hunting lodge in South Carolina this past June, Maggie met with a divorce attorney in Charleston to explore her options about ending her marriage to Alex Murdaugh. Alex, who called 911 after finding the bodies of his wife and youngest son, is accused of allegedly trying to stage his own murder earlier this month. Police say his goal was to get his other son a $10 million life insurance payout. The source tells People that before her death, Maggie began looking into the family finances to determine the state of the couple's marital assets. According to People, the source says Alex's coworkers noticed a cooling in the couple's relationship, with Maggie no longer coming by the office to have lunch with her husband. It's unclear whether a possible divorce had anything to do with her death. Authorities have not identified a motive or a suspect in the killings of Maggie and Paul.
And Alex Murdaugh has been charged with conspiracy to commit insurance fraud and filing a false police report. He is also being investigated for allegedly misappropriating millions of dollars from his law firm. And he's also now the subject of an investigation surrounding the death of his family housekeeper.
Unbelievable. I just want to say to all the audience, a good sign that your wife may be asking you for divorce is that she will no longer have lunch with you.
Listen, the whole thing, the fact that she hired a forensic accountant, she started looking into the finances, then she's looking to divorce him. I think that screams motive for Alec Murdaugh, screams it, because if she winds up has a forensic accountant look into their finances, that may uncover the stealing and the misappropriation of funds with the firm, as well as the divorce. Because when you're going to go through a divorce with wealthy people, they're going to ask for tax returns, any assets. They're going to dig deep, especially an attorney that's partner in a firm. So that is screaming motive to me. And I think Bill and I both shared this opinion early on, because it just sounded like there was too much going on. And one of the questions that I have for Joe, since he's here today, Joe, with this new information being revealed that she had a consultation with an attorney regarding ending her marriage, would it be a obligation or would it be a conflict if the police interviewed him, that lawyer that she spoke with, about what was going on between her and her husband relating to the murder case? Would it be a conflict of interest for the lawyer to talk about it because of attorney-client privilege now that she's dead?
Yeah, I think the privilege survives death. I don't think you can reveal. I'm not positive. I never had a client die.
Really?
But yeah, I think the privilege survives death. You can't.
So if they went to this attorney, he may not be able to tell her what intimate details she related to the attorney about wanting to end her marriage. He really couldn't talk about it then, more than likely.
Yeah, I'm not positive on that, but
okay.
I do believe it survives death. It's, you got to take that to your grave. You can't reveal things, but I'll check that out for you just to be sure.
Okay, that was something just popped into my head thinking about this after discussing it.
That's an interesting point, because he'd be the first guy that you'd want to talk to if you believe she's the victim. You can't talk to her, so you talk to the people around her. Who better? Yeah. Because that's the motive. She's going to divorce him and out him and forensically destroy him.
Sure.
Yeah, let's get rid of her. And so I would love to talk to him, to investigate the case. Yeah, but I don't think that's. But I'll find out for sure.
I just want to play one more quick video in regards to the Murdaugh case. Then we're going to move on to Gabby Petito. This is his cousin who shot him and didn't do a very good job.
I consider him one of my best friends. He's like a brother to me.
That so-called brother is Alec Murdaugh. South Carolina authorities say he asked Curtis Smith to shoot and kill him September 4th. The plan, according to SLED, to help Murdaugh's surviving son Buster collect a $10 million life insurance policy. But it didn't work. Instead, Murdaugh told SLED what happened, so they arrested both of them. But where's the connection between the two? Through court records, we found out Murdaugh represented Smith in a personal injury lawsuit back in 2010.
Had to have 3 discs removed out the back and got rods and screws in every place of them. It's not fun.
Smith says injuries from a logging accident left him permanently disabled.
Talk to me about the pain.
It's an everyday thing. I mean, it's every day. I know it's there all day long.
Court documents indicate Smith took OxyContin for that pain, but fast forward to this month. Authorities charged Smith with distribution of meth and possession of marijuana, a drug parallel to what unfolded during Murdaugh's bond hearing.
If anyone wants to see the face of what opioid addiction does, you're looking at it.
In the days after the shooting, Murdaugh said he checked himself into rehab for substance abuse.
Is Alex somebody that you cared about?
Yeah, I say like a brother to me. I'd have done anything in the world for him, almost anyway. It's crushing to know that evidently I mean nothing to nobody, especially him.
Curtis says he feels betrayed.
Unbelievable, right? He hires his cousin to shoot him, but the constant is this $10 million life insurance policy. So he hires him to shoot him, but he also, how do we know that he didn't hire someone to shoot his wife and his son Paul for the $10 million?
That's a little strange, that case, because they were shot with two different guns. One a shotgun, one like a rifle or something. That's weird. And then at different times. But the reporter was saying there was no apparent motive. But I thought Anthony was, because of Mallory, upset with Paul, and he had a motive.
For sure. But when you look at that guy, did you see when he was being walked through I guess it was when he was in custody, and he made some kind of noise. Like he sounded like a real crankhead. He looks like a meth head. And he's saying, he was like a brother to me. Brothers like that, you don't need enemies, boy. I'll tell you that. And
I'd do anything, including shoot him in the head for insurance.
Come on. This is ridiculous. I don't believe the story that he hired him. I don't believe it at all, because if he wanted him dead, I mean, he fired a shot, only one shot, it grazes him, and then don't shoot no more. That whole thing with the fake flat tire, the whole thing is nonsense. It's baloney. I'd love to drill down on the two of them and get the real story. And with regard to that Joe just brought up, the boating accident with Mallory, obviously that would be the first place you'd want to look. But I don't know. This whole thing stinks, and to me, I don't know. Alec is looking better and better as being involved in that double homicide to me. I with these latest developments, it's really looking that way. $10 million lawsuits, and then he knows he's going to get caught up in it, and then he stages this fake shooting. I don't believe one word of what that guy just said, and I don't believe one word of what Alex said. I think they're both lying, and I'd love to get him in the box.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Philly.
Look at that.
It's incredible, though. Can I just ask, because I wasn't really up on this dynamics of the family, he left that $10 million policy for Buster. Is he the only sibling alive? Is that all it was?
Yeah, he's the only surviving member other than the father at this point.
Right.
Of the immediate family. And I believe there were, Bill, didn't you tell me earlier that there were policies on the wife and the son as well?
Yes.
That were killed? Yeah. So, maybe he thought he was going to buy his way out of this. I think the real motive is the incident of the theft from the firm. It might have been occurring over many years. He might have saw the walls caving in with this Satterfield, Gloria Satterfield. That might have been the beginning of the end. Maybe that attorney on that, there was questions starting to be poking around in that. And that might have been the motive to start the whole thing with, killing the mother and the son. And then when the son got in his trouble, the whole thing is just a big of shit, as we say in law enforcement. It really is.
Folks, we're going to segue into the Gabby Petito case. And what's causing a lot of angst among everyone is, of course, the domestic violence thing that some people are accusing the Moab police of botching it. I'm going to play a video of another angle that has been played on a few other content creators, and I'm just going to show you this, and then we'll make our comments afterwards.
Did you get hit in the face?
Newly released police body cam video shows more of the moments from an August incident in Utah between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie.
We want to know the truth if he actually hit you. Because,
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be
He
honest.
grabbed my face.
Slap your face or what?
Well, like he like grabbed me like with his nail, and I guess that's why it was. I definitely have a cut right here because I could feel it.
Yeah.
Touch it, it burns.
The video, taken more than 5 weeks before Petito was discovered dead near a campground in Bridger Teton National Forest. Moab City police pulled over the couple's van on August the 12th, separating Petito and Laundrie after they said a witness reported seeing a man hit a woman in the face.
She gets really worked up, and when she does, she swings and she had her cell phone in her hand, so I was just trying to push her away.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him.
You slapped him first, and then just on his face?
He gets kind of just shut up.
Police previously released shorter videos of the incident, but the newly expanded version also includes conversation between officers on the scene.
In no way, shape, or form that I can perceive does what happened here, a little slap fight between fiancés who love each other, want to be together, can I perceive that this is going to digress into the situation where he's going to be a battered man? Right. But then again, I don't have a crystal ball.
According to the police report, the responding officer initially described the altercation as a mental emotional health break, not a domestic assault. Earlier this month, the city of Moab, Utah announced it's launching an independent investigation into the way officers handled that incident. In Florida, FBI agents combed the Laundrie family home again Thursday, departing with this bag.
You know, there's been a lot of conversation about how the Moab police handled that. And initially, when we saw it early on in the investigation, I believe it was on August 12th, we had sort of praised the Moab police on what a professional job they did. However, at the time that we watched it, we weren't privy to the 911 call that said, the witness said that they saw the male slap the female. So that would have been in a New York City type thing. If I would respond to the scene and I was the boss, it would be a cross complaint thing. And I probably would have locked them both up. You know, had I known about the 911 caller that said he witnessed the male, and then there would have been, of course, further interviews. But it's sort of, that's how police sort of have to protect themselves. In this incident, I still think they did a pretty good job. Although, how could they possibly predict that in the 27th she would be murdered? How could they possibly predict that? Comments, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I reviewed it myself as well. And again, this is part of my philosophy. It's not the law. The law is must arrest. My philosophy is an arrest should be a last resort. And I think these officers did a great job. They were very reasonable in their efforts. If you go through that video, I was watching Duty Ron, and he had it on late last night. And the steps that they took, interviewing them, they both denied it initially. And then they confronted them after interviewing the witness who said, yeah, I saw them, hitting each other. And he confronted them and says, well, we have a witness who we talked to who says he was hitting him. And then she says, oh, yes, but I hit him first. And then he similarly, I think he actually went to Brian first. And Brian kind of tap danced. Well, I was just trying to, we were having a fight and an argument. And I wanted to get her out of the car. You go this way, that way. And he looked at that as not being offensive, trying to hurt her, but just trying to resolve it, take a break, walk away. So he interpreted it that way. And then again, hearing her say, yes, he did hit me, grab my face, but I hit him first. So I think these officers were looking at the merits of the whole thing. Then they called the boss and related the facts to the boss. Then he said, I got to reread the statute. And then I think he came upon the intent issue and then went back to Gabby and said, look, this is an important question. Going to ask you, what was your intent? Why did you hit him? So I really just think they put forth such a great effort. And then looking at it, they made a determination of the primary aggressor. Bill, I did hear that 911 call, not when we did our show, but I heard it subsequently. It was very general and benign. It was like slapping. There was no, she was, coiling in pain and I saw him punching her. Well, it was just slapping. Slapping where? slapping her back about, like it was too general. So without having more contact with that caller, and I don't think it was the caller that they did get in touch with, and I don't know why they didn't get in touch with that guy, but without an injury, that's harassment. You can't make an arrest for it anyway. But this new video shows where she's like, he grabbed my face, and I think his nail kind of caused some kind of injury, because he did say, I see. And this cop, everyone's attacking him. He was proactively, oh, how'd you get this? Oh, look at your arm. So he's trying to do what he's supposed to do. And then she's hurting the case because she's like, oh, that was not from him. I was climbing into the vein and there was a backpack, and that's what caused that bruise. So I really commend these guys for doing a great job. I thought it was a great job. When you arrest someone, you take their freedom away. That's a Fourth Amendment constitutional protection. You better have your facts together. This is not just, lock someone up, because when your case gets thrown out, because a DA is going to look at it and say, there's no way I'm going to get a conviction here, case dismissed, who's the first person that they're going after? The cop. And when the cop says, well, typically domestic violence cases, okay, we know that. Tell me the facts of this case. Did she say he struck him? Yes. Did it cause an injury? It would have to be flushed out. What is your evidence that you made an arrest? Isn't it a fact that you're supposed to do a primary aggressor analysis, and you don't have to arrest both people? In domestic violence statute, that provision is in there. And did you do so? Yes. And I determined she was the primary aggressor. You know what I mean? There's just so much here. I don't think it's going to be, a simple yes or no. This is why cops need to be paid more, educated more, trained more. And this defund the police is the most ridiculous thing. This is why we need top-notch people in there. And I did feel that the bearded officer was top-notch. I want that guy in my neighborhood. I want him doing that analysis. He knew the law and still went back and reread it to make sure he was doing the right thing. I just want to, Joe, I appreciate everything you just said. And a lot of people, of course, in the chat disagree with you. I want to ask Phil Grimaldi, if there was an arrest made, would it have made any difference in what occurred on the 27th of August?
Well, I got to say, Bill, it's obvious that we don't have crystal ball. The officer said that. Joe made some really good points about the interaction with the police, but I just want to lay this out there. I'm going to answer your question in a second, Bill, but I want to lay this out there. Forget that it's Gabby Petito. Not that I want to forget her, but just say it's a situation that officers roll up on, and they're being told there's a 911 call that a woman was being hit by a male, and the woman is telling them, yeah, well, I hit him first. Now, what's the first reaction that you're going to have when someone hits you? I think it's human nature. It's human reaction. You're going to either hit back, or she says, he grabbed my face, maybe to make her stop assaulting him. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm not saying that's what happened here. But as an officer who has no experience with either of these two people, he's never run in with them before, he hears that. So it almost sounds like he was kind of defending himself by her hitting him first. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay for a man to slap a woman in any way, shape, or form, but it's also not okay for a woman not to slap a man too. It goes both ways. So these officers, I'm telling you, I don't want to Monday morning quarterback them that we discussed already in the beginning of the show. I don't want to do that, but they look like they went the extra mile. Joe said they read that statute in the law. So it wasn't like these guys weren't up on it. They were very well aware of what to do and how to handle it. But there was like a gray area here. Who hit who first? They were obviously mutual combatants. There was no serious physical injury. And then they went the extra mile of reading the statute. And then they went one step further. They separated them. Now, I think that qualifies as enough. They did enough due diligence in their job with this situation, with this job, to say that I don't think they did anything wrong. Now, would it have changed everything? That was the question that started this rant. But I don't know. It's 15 days later that she was allegedly murdered, around the 27th. So I talked with Bill off the air earlier, and I said I've had cases that an arrest either accelerated violence or decelerated. I've had it both ways. So we don't know what the outcome would have been if they would have either both been arrested, Gabby was arrested, or Brian was arrested. I don't think, in my heart of hearts, and I'll put like a lot into this, if one of them was arrested, I don't think the other one was going to go running back home to either Florida or New York or anything like that. So I think that if Brian was arrested, she would have waited around. If she was arrested, Brian would have waited around. If they both were arrested, they probably would have reunited when they were released the next day. So I don't know how much this could have prevented poor Gabby's murder.
I'm going to play another short. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I really just, because there's a couple of things that really bother me. Domestic violence cases are not like any other cases where, you street encounter, push shove, you're both fighting, mutual combatants, lock them both up. It's a little different with domestic violence, and you're supposed to do this primary aggressor analysis. So there is a success. It's hard enough to prosecute a domestic violence case. You lock them both up. This is the reality of what you just did. Brian has a lawyer. Gabby has a lawyer. Gabby's facing criminal charges. Brian's facing criminal charges. Let's say that the prosecutor decides we're going to prosecute Brian first. Put Gabby on the stand. What am I going to tell her? Take the fifth. You're being prosecuted next. Take the fifth. Don't answer anything. What's Brian's lawyer going to tell Brian when he gets on the stand prosecuting Gabby? And mind you, neither one wants to prosecute each other, so they will willingly do this. Brian will get on the stand, and he'll take the fifth. Why? Because he has criminal liability. He's got pending charges. He does not have to answer any questions. Therefore, there will be no prosecution of either one of them, and they'll both be.
But Joe, you know something from the police point of view, the police sergeants say, when I would respond to a situation like this, I'm not thinking about the prosecution. I'm thinking about covering my ass.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking about. Because if I walk away from this and it escalates, and look what happened here 13 days later, or 15 days later, they're going to look back at Sergeant Cannon and say, wait a minute, maybe if you would have made that arrest, this wouldn't have happened. And again, Monday morning,
same protection when you lock one up, the primary aggressor. You enjoy that same protection because now they can't have contact. He's in custody or she's in custody, and then there's a stay away order. And this is the thing why I actually interrupt, where we're saying that it wouldn't have changed anything. I disagree, because if you did arrest somebody, not both, because if you arrest both, I've seen this and done it, at arraignment, the DA will dismiss it. They can't prosecute both. So they'll
but Joe, but the
hold on, Bill, please.
Go ahead.
If one is arrested, what is the first thing the judge does at arraignment?
Order of protection.
Order of protection.
Yeah, but Joe, let me interject for a second, Joe. How many times, and I've had this so many times, that order of protection, they're talking the next day, Joe. I mean, listen, I agree with you. It would have been an order of protection. And unless one of the people that is on the order, like if the order goes to Brian, he's got to now make a police report and call the police that she violated if she comes near him, or vice versa. So, and it happens all the time. Order protection. We would have where the order protection would be abused, where the girl would say, well, I called him on payday. I needed some money, but then when Sunday came, I threw him out and he gave me a hard time, and I want him locked up for violation. But you spent the weekend with him when he had money in his pocket. When he was broke, you're calling 911 on him. So, I mean, listen, anything's possible, but those order protections, I just don't agree that would have 100% prevented this murder. I can't. I'm
not 100%, but when you're facing criminal charges already, I don't think either one of these people, I could be wrong, were arrested before. They're very young and they're together, and but when you're facing criminal charges, especially for the first time, and the judge at arraignment threatens you and tells you, I'm releasing you, but you're to have no contact whatsoever. If you have any contact, I'm putting you in jail. I'm holding you. I'm revoking your bail or your release as a condition of your release. That's pretty intimidating. I mean,
Sure.
that's what I do in my practice. It's
Let me
intimidating.
just play this next.
Are you worried about her story? No, you can talk to her. She seems like a really sweet girl, 22 or something, has a lot of anxiety, and from what she's claiming, she's the full-on aggressor here. I'd love to go talk to the independent witnesses, and maybe that's what I'll go do. Yeah, there's a couple of waters. Here's this bag. You might need that for someone else. I know to keep it rings, the phone. And I was on the keys because I didn't want to go anywhere. I like big kids. I don't have my phone. I don't have a phone. So she goes off about. All right, I'm on my own. So I was saying, let's just go for a walk. And she was trying to get the keys for me, so I just go here, just wait back up. And I didn't get. I don't want to push you. I didn't get completely physical. I'm just trying to keep her away and not get hit. And then I got really loud, and then that's probably really this tension where I was going. Back up, get away, just get away. Okay, so you said you pushed her to create some distance, obviously, right? What happened after that? What kind of snack? Okay, Google. Police, how are you? Hey, we got this van stopped and we're separated the male and the female, and we got both of their stories. Now that we're not looking for them so intensely, I was just wondering if you had a minute, just kind of repeat to me what it is exactly you saw.
No problem, sir. Yeah, so I was talking to my friend on the street near the Forest Service building, and I just noticed that this couple was sort of arguing a bit, and I wasn't staring at them, but it did catch my attention. And what I noticed is it seemed like they were sort of squabbling over a phone. I want to say that he was trying to grab her phone, and I'm not sure exactly why. And then it seemed like he had sort of blocked the one side of the van and sort of wasn't letting her in. And then the male was stepping into the driver's seat, and she was trying to get into the van, and he said something about why you're being so mean, something like that. And I remember he sort of hit him a few times, and it wasn't like slugs in the face, but just kind of like two kids kind of fighting. They reminded me of very secure, I don't know, children sort of fighting. But there seemed like something was off, and it seemed like a weird vibe. And eventually it's like, she crawled into the driver's seat, sort of like got into the vehicle over his lap, sort of forced her way in, I guess. And then they were in the car, and then they just drove away. So I wasn't sure what the nature of the argument was or what. It just seems like there was some sort of disagreement and some sort of like shutting. I don't know why she would have entered through the driver's door. I thought that was strange. So I thought about calling it in, but as soon as I walked up this bar, there was another gentleman who was already calling it in. So I was like, oh, good on you. That seems a bit off. I wasn't sure what to do in that situation, but that's what I saw. And if there's any other specific questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Did you ever see the male strike the female?
I would say that I think I saw maybe a push or a shove, but not like a full-on punch to the face or anything.
Was the shove was the shove or push an aggression towards her, or was it a defensive maneuver away from her or to get her away from him?
That's a good question. it was unclear what was going on to me, but it did seem like he was, it seemed like he was trying to close off the passenger side of the vehicle and close things up. It almost seemed like he put that backpack or something on the back of the vehicle. I'm not sure. And he was stepping in and she was out trying to get in. So maybe,
Okay.
I don't, it was, the whole thing was off. And so, no, I didn't see anything that was like him taking after her or hitting her or vice versa. It was kind of light and they were almost kind of laughing. And I wasn't sure if they were just joking around, to be honest. But then it got more strange as he was in the vehicle about to drive off.
But you did see her slapping him, though, it sounds like.
Yes, it was like, my memory is he was in the driver's seat and she has the driver's door open and she's like kind of hitting him either in the arm or maybe on the face, maybe with an open hand, like, hey, let me in, don't be a jerk, something like that.
Okay. Well, your story is really, really helpful because you're an independent witness, and we've just interviewed both of them. And
I mean, from what we heard, it still sounds like that the police, in my view, did a pretty good investigation.
I think so too. I think Joe's out. Joe, your volume's off.
Doing that. Because I was talking to Ange, sorry, I keep doing that. But yeah, I agree. I think these are the extraordinary efforts. They called and got in touch with the witness, interviewed him, and he seems to corroborate their theory. He wasn't the aggressor, that it was her that was hitting him, and he was kind of being defensive about it. I agree with what they did. I do think, as a Monday morning quarterback, knowing now what happened, that it may have impacted what happened later, because of the order of protection, but I don't think at the time they did anything wrong.
Listen, Joe,
they called the boss. They read the statute. They interviewed her again. They interviewed this independent witness. They really took Bill, you're the boss showing up on this thing, and you're hearing, are they still out on that job? I got 10 other jobs.
Something I thought about that too, is that how long of an investigation they did on this job. And in New York City, it would be like impossible to lay a radio car up that long on the case like this. And you'd be like, what's going on here? And
they even brought in a female officer to talk to her. So I think they really went above and beyond. They went the extra mile with this case. At the end of the day, listen, we know what happened. Yeah. Had they arrested him, may have turned out differently. Of course, there's a possibility that Joe mentioned the part about the order of protection and the way the judge, says stay away and all of that. Listen, that may have well prevented it. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball, but you can't knock these guys. I mean, my opinion changed a little bit when I heard it because we thought that they never got that information. They did get it, but then they called the complainant that called it in, the 911 caller. That's what you just played, Bill. They were interviewing the person. They asked him to go over the details. He clearly laid out the same story that she laid out, that she hit him first and that he was maybe smacking her or pushing her or whatever it was. So again, I brought this scenario up before. Someone hits you, you tend to either grab them, try. Now, if a woman hits me, that's half my size, I'm going to grab her and try and stop her from assaulting me. I may not knock her out, knockout punch, but, and listen, I may not, because I'm talking about if I'm in uniform. I'm talking about if I'm in uniform. I'm not talking about today. I'm talking because I've had women attack me when I was arresting their boyfriend, husband, whatever it was. And, there's no need for a knockout punch, but if somebody's about to kill you, then, you do what you got to do. But my point is that if it's a woman that's half my size, I would grab her and try and restrain her rather than. So maybe that's what they had in their minds with this thing. They had the female officer come there. They did all of these things. So I think we have a clear picture of, how it was handled, and they did their due diligence, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Joe.
I just want to ask, because I noticed there was a comment, and this is a common thing I saw in the comments and talking with others. Linda T at 543 writes, will the panel please answer this question? Why was he not cited for speeding? Now, as we know, and it may be different in Utah, speeding is a violation. It's a violation that you have discretion to use. And I think just because we were all cops and have done this, I think these cops are thinking these people were having enough problems. There was no need to add to it by giving a summons. And they have discretion whether or not to issue a summons. If in Utah, somebody in another comment said, you're 25 miles over the speed limit, that's an arrest. I don't know that to be true. I guess it could be like reckless endangerment if you're that excessively speeding. And they're kind of suggesting that they went out of their way to protect Brian. I really don't think that's the case. I think they were very unbiased. They looked at it. They called witnesses. They talked to people. They really did a good job, in my opinion. But just to answer Linda T, because it is a common question, that was the initial thing the officer observed by following the car, that he was speeding and then actually recklessly going over the line and then hitting the curb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you know,
Kind
one of the
warn and admonish. In a situation like that, a police officer is allowed to use discretion and say, I got you for speeding. However, I'm not going to give you the violation, slow down, or whatever it is. So in this situation, you know, I think you heard the officer say to the female officer, yes, she's got a lot of anxiety. So they were looking at it as a possible psychological, emotional, you know, is this really like a criminal thing, or is it a, you know, a mental disorder thing? So that, you know, that's one of the components of their decision making too.
Right. And I think that they were looking at it and say, look, they've had a rough day. They don't need another summons on top of this.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and I love cops do that, you know, and we all want cops to use their discretion in a circumstance where, you know, it's not necessary to pile on like that.
Of course.
For sure. Sandra Luciano, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. One of the things I also want to just point out is that police aren't expected to hold a courtroom trial out in the street. They're supposed to collect the facts. And if there is probable cause, and in a situation like this where it was more of a violation and not an assault misdemeanor, to use their discretion if necessary. And that's what we're sort of applauding the police for doing here, is for using their discretion. And I think many people in the chat and many people that are criticizing the officers think that the street is a courtroom, and it's not a courtroom, you know, and all of the protections you get in court are a little bit different out on the street. And I think, you know, we look, many people are going to disagree with us no matter what we say, but we've been there before. We've done this before. Some people are claiming that if there was a female officer, she would have felt different. There was a female officer there on the scene. So I don't think we can make this about sex. It's about applying the law correctly in a complicated situation that is not so easy to read. And because what happened 15 days later doesn't change the situation that they were presented with in real time.
Absolutely, Bill. And you made a very good point about the length of time and, you know, there's not a courtroom out in the street in, you know, in an urban area like where, you know, the NYPD in this city, you're pretty close to the station house. They may have removed everybody to the station house and then settled it at the station house. I don't know if that would have really played out any differently, but because it's Moab, Utah, they're out in the middle of nowhere. God only knows how far the police station is, the station house from where they were. But you cannot fault them based on all of the actions that you saw take place on those body cameras. I mean, just like you said, Bill, just now, they should have gotten a female police officer. They did. And I think that she had a conversation with Gabby alone. And if there was something really that she was holding back, she may have, you know, told her in confidence or whatever. It might have shed some light on it. And I think that now that we know, when we're Monday morning quarterback, and even though we say we're not, we are, because we know the results of what happened. The Monday morning quarterback aspect of it is this: look at the history that we now are uncovering from her friends, how he was controlling. He took her ID away so she couldn't go to bars and stuff. And she kind of seemed submissive to him. She seemed very submissive in her actions when she spoke about him. Did he hit you? Yeah, but I hit him first. And, well, how did he hit you? Well, he just kind of grabbed my face. So she probably was caught in a very volatile, you know, a bad relationship, so to speak. It was toxic. And, you know, but how far can you go to find out. I mean, you know, what are they going to do? Pull out a lie detector test and give it to her if she's telling the truth? I mean, they really, I got to say, they really went the extra mile.
They
And
absolutely
don't forget,
did.
police officers are the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system. And arresting somebody, regardless if they're found guilty or not, has consequences. You ever apply for a police job or security clearance at other, military, if you're a military officer, when you're charged by the military, it's a different standard with misconduct. And also, I'll just give an example, applying for a pistol permit. If you apply for a pistol permit, let's just say Gabby was arrested and applied for a permit, the fact that her case ended up getting dismissed means nothing. They look at the underlying conduct. And then the fact that it's a domestic situation that she was arrested in, and it's a violent situation, she could be denied a permit because of the underlying conduct, not because there was no conviction. And what the courts have said is, in a criminal case, it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But when you're applying for a pistol license, they don't need to satisfy proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If they believe there's credible evidence that you committed some violent act, they'll disqualify you. So there's so many consequences that comes with arresting people. You better have your ducks in a row. And I said it before, but who's the first person they're gonna sue? And you can't say, think about it. I'm a defense attorney. When I have him on the stand, I question him. Did she tell you that he assaulted him? No. Did she say whether she assaulted him? Yes. And why didn't you believe her? Is she a liar? Did you determine somehow she's a liar? There's so many ways that this cop is just going to be crushed going forward with that. I think they did a fair job. If they did make an arrest, I wouldn't object either. It was just such a close call that,
I agree.
People in the chat are just so sure, oh, these cops are biased. No, it's not fair. I'll call it like I see it, just like I think I disagree. I think if there was an arrest, that order of protection is very powerful. And domestic violence cases, they don't push them out 2 months. There'll be like a 2 or 3 week date, where you're back into court and talking to I don't think they would have ventured too far. I think they would have rethought their process. How are we going to deal with this? We got to get you a lawyer. Go see, I think it would have changed the course. Now, would it have prevented the homicide? I don't know. But I think it would have been more likely to prevent the homicide. But there is no way that you would have known that during this car stop where they were doing this investigation. There's no way. It's just by happenstance that we now know that, and we're looking back, Monday morning quarterbacking.
Right.
But I do believe they did an extraordinary job. These are well-trained, educated officers that I would want in my neighborhood, and it could have went either way. Like that officer said, look, I'll back you either way. I agree with him. If they would have made an arrest, I would have said, okay. If they chose not to, I would have said, okay, I see it, both sides.
Right. Phil, I just want you to do a quick read of Joe the lawyer.
We have Joe the lawyer here today, back and better than ever. Thank God you're feeling better, Joe. Joe Murray, attorney at law. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He knows both sides of the fence. His website is jmurray-law.com. That's jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, 646-838-1702, or you could email Joe at joe@jmurray-law.com. That's joe@jmurray-law.com.
Folks, I just wanted to segue also into this week. The FBI went back to Brian Laundrie's house to collect certain types of evidence. The news put it out there that they were collecting evidence that they could compare against DNA to verify that his DNA is in certain locations. What is your take on that, Joe?
I still think we have a missing person case here. And, maybe there's some other reason they're trying to get like a fresh scent on him for dogs, or like you said, DNA. I think because it is a missing person on top of the warrant looking for him, they're using whatever means are available to them. Now, I didn't hear that there was a warrant, so it sounds like they were voluntarily allowed to go in there and take this material, which I believe was like recent clothes he had or something like that. I think it's the missing person aspect. I'm not so sure that was a scam or a sham that everyone says it is. You're talking about a young kid who's, very privileged and now facing all of this backlash. He's under tremendous stress. Maybe he just decided, I got to get off the grid and unplug and disappear, and went in over his head, thought too much of his skills and really didn't have those skills. I do believe he's a missing person. So, but you can't ignore it, whether you believe it or not. You can't ignore it. And if the family's going to give you something to help you in your search, take it.
You know what, Joe? I agree with what you're saying, and I'm thinking about it now. Just when you said it, they reported him missing. So if I want clothing, whether I'm going to use it for the search to arrest him or the search to find him, I call them up and say, we'd like to get some of his clothing for the searches that we're conducting in the Carlton Reserve or wherever it is that they're searching. And now maybe they consult with the lawyer. Yeah, well, you reported him missing. You should cooperate with that and you should give that. And they may even say to her, give it to us, or, we'll go out and get a search warrant. So right there, that's probably how they got it. If there was no warrant issued for they did walk out with a bag of clothing. They also took pictures of the camper that was on the driveway. I don't know. They examined it. They took pictures of it. I think they want to see if it was in certain locations, because I know that it was picked up in an area up in the DeSoto Park, Fort DeSoto Park. That's where they allegedly went camping around the 11th of September, when Gabby was first reported missing. They went, Brian, his mom, and his dad went camping in that camper, and they have video of them going into the location, and only two of them leaving. That's why they thought that there was a search should be conducted. That's where Dog the Bounty Hunter wound up, and they did actually conduct some searches. I think they're still conducting searches in that area. So, there's a lot to say. I would think that if it's something related to the criminal aspect, they probably would have got the warrant either way. You know what I mean? Just to play it safe. That's what I would have done. If I'm going to use a piece of his clothing to find him, I probably would have got the warrant. I don't know. Maybe they did. We may not know about it. It may not even been, released to the media. But yeah, I could see what you're saying, Joe, that them saying, the police calling him saying, well, you reported your son missing, right? Is he still missing? Yeah. Okay. We want clothing that we want to use for the search dogs. Very simple.
And it seems that they willingly, participated. They want their son back. I believe that.
Not me, but okay.
Something. Look, I believe that he's a fugitive. I believe he killed her. I believe there's tons of circumstantial evidence, and I believe when they capture him, he's going to be indicted for murder. And I believe all of the missing person thing, I think is ridiculous.
I believe that that the parents are aiding him. I really believe that they've aided him from the minute he came back from Florida.
Avery counties both confirmed to WSOC TV that they had received more than half a dozen tips earlier this week about Gabby Petito's 23-year-old fugitive boyfriend. It has also been a focus for the private search team led by Dwayne Dog the Bounty Hunter Chapman, whose daughter Lissa Chapman tweeted a plea for experienced hiking survivalists near the Appalachian Hiking Trail in North Carolina. If you have hunters in your family near the in North Carolina, tell them to check your game cameras, she tweeted Sunday, also asking locals to widely spread Laundrie's image. The Appalachians is understood to be an area familiar to Laundrie, who was previously reported to have once lived there by himself for months. While it was not clear how many of the official tips claimed to be actual sightings, Watauga County deputies pulled over a car to investigate a possible lead that led to nothing. The local outlet said. Watauga officers also have a detective monitoring a mass of online posts claiming that people are seeing Brian Laundrie in Boone, North Carolina, officials told the Watauga Democrat. We have been monitoring social media for alleged sightings or information of Brian Laundrie being in this area, Watauga County Sheriff Len Hageman confirmed to the local paper. But nothing has been verified, he insisted. Some of the info has been based on rumors that Laundrie, who went missing more than 2 weeks ago, days before Petito's body was found, may be familiar with the Appalachian Trail, the sheriff said. Some of it has been strong enough to pass along to other local, state and federal law enforcement officers, the sheriff said. We actually had a conversation with the FBI this morning, Hageman told WSOC on Wednesday. If there's something legitimate, we'll check it out. And if there's something more to it, then the FBI will be contacted, but not on every call, he said. Laundrie had returned from a cross-country trip with Petito, 22, on September 1st, without her. Petito was officially reported missing September 11 and later found dead in Wyoming. Laundrie remains the sole person of interest in the case. He went missing on September 14th, according to his parents who only reported it to police 3 days later. There is an active warrant for his arrest on fraud charges for using someone's bank card around the time Petito disappeared.
Well, it wasn't someone's bank card. It was Gabby Petito's bank card that he was using. And look, I just feel, look, I've said it a million times, and, you know, maybe it's going to sound ad nauseum, but I said, when it walks like a duck, when it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in the strength of circumstantial evidence. And I think that there's tons of circumstantial evidence against Brian Laundrie. And I believe when they find him, he will be arrested and he will be charged with this murder.
I agree with you, Bill. And I'll tell you right now, I've been calling the parents out from day one on this thing. Their behavior with Gabby's family when they were reached out to, when they weren't getting responses from her or Brian, they ignored them. And we have a video. There's a video. The FBI has a video of Brian and his parents buying an AT&T cell phone on September the 4th. That phone is now in the possession of the FBI. And one of the FBI investigators, a talking head that I saw in the news, said that they believe it was a red herring to throw the police off, that he doesn't have a cell phone because that cell phone was left at the house when they reported Brian missing. They said his wallet and his cell phone is here. The cell phone had just been purchased. But I don't know if the parents are this cunning and experienced in what they're doing to try and help their son. But the day that they were in that video store, they had cell phones on them more than likely, and those cell phones can be tracked. And the cell phones can also be tracked, their movements going all the way back to when he first got back to Florida. So I would hope that they're not putting himself in the trick bag for criminal charges such as tampering with evidence or obstructing justice. But I mean, their failure to communicate with law enforcement with regard to anything, they've shut down, and they've never shown any remorse or any sympathy towards Gabby Petito's family. That's disgusting. It's terrible. There was a protester arrested yesterday. There's been protests going on outside their home from when this thing first started back in early September. And a protester went on one of the neighbors' lawn, and the neighbor went over and accosted the guy, pushed him, hit him. He was arrested. Now, the point I'm trying to make is this. These people are not going to be able to live in that neighborhood. Everybody's going to have disdain and dislike for them. They need to get together with Brian, bring him in, and deal with the problem. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I had a conversation earlier with Sammy the Bull Gravano, who was on our show recently, and he said just that. If it was my kid, because he called to comment on his case. He said, if it were my kid, I would tell my kid, look, we got to get a lawyer. We got to go in and we got to try and make some kind of amends to this family and show sympathy. Now, I think that that's coming from someone who was in a life of crime just about all of his life. And he even had that opinion. Now, he could be just telling a story, but I believe what he's saying to be true. And I had the same experience. I get trying to protect my children. I don't want my children in harm's way, of course. But when you have a situation like this where they're on film, videos, all of this stuff, there's a tremendous international media attention. It's not going away, dirty laundries. It's not going away. So the best thing to do is show some type of sympathy for the family. Bring your son in. You're going to get to visit your son if he goes to jail. He may or may not go to jail, but if he goes to jail, you'll be able to visit him. The Petitos only have a gravestone to visit. Okay, so just think about that. Put yourself in their position, that family, and get with the program, and you're going to be criminally held if they can prove all of the things that I talk about. I'm sure the FBI is taking a deep dive into all of this, the stuff that I mentioned.
Joe, I thought you would be dying to comment on this.
Well, I mean, I disagree that they should be talking to any federal officers. I fear the federal government. The federal government is just so powerful. And looking at what's been happening at the highest levels, I never in a million years, if you would have told me that a lawyer from the Justice Department would forge a document and give it to a judge to get a warrant, I would say you're out of your mind. They would never do that. And
it happened.
did it, and it went to prison. The federal government is treacherous. And I fear them. As a lawyer, I don't even want to talk
Joe,
to them.
I'm not saying that they should throw themselves on a sword and go right to the. No, I think what they should do is produce the son with the attorney, and then just proceed. You wanted him for the credit card fraud. Here he is, and I'm not saying that they should go and have a conversation with the FBI. That's not what I was getting at. Start to show cooperation. They know where he is. They know exactly where he is. They helped him to get where he is. That's my opinion. And I'll stay with that until we know, until we know otherwise. So my point is, they not once did they offer sympathy to the family. That's terrible. The girl was living in their house for 2 years. Come on. I mean, that alone is says a lot about them. That's why, you got people like John Walsh and me calling them the dirty laundries. I mean, it's disgusting what they're doing. Give your son, he has an attorney, let him have his day in court, support him. I get it. Believe me, it's your child. I get it. But having him out in the wilderness somewhere, suppose he gets attacked by a bear or a snake or whatever it is, then you're going to be in the same position going to a gravestone. Think about it.
Carrie Johnson, thank you so much for your $5 super chat. She says, now the Laundrie's attorney disclosed the sister has seen Brian twice. She was at Fort DeSoto also. Cassie said she misunderstood the reporter. I don't know if that's vetted or not. I don't know. Cassie, I'm not disputing whether you know this or not, but I haven't read that anywhere or seen it from.
I did see some stories on the internet. I didn't even bring it up because, like you said, it's not vetted yet. I did see something about the sister, and I was focused on the things that we know, like the protest in front of the house, the recovery of whatever they took from the house yesterday, the FBI, the pictures of the van, Dog the Bounty Hunter, all that he's doing. But there is something going around the internet that the sister made some statements that might incriminate herself or whatever, but we'll look into it and we'll know for sure. We'll vet it.
So,
one of the with the use of the dirty laundries, we're professionals. John, what's his name? Walsh, he's a moron. That guy is an arrogant, cop-hating, self-aggrandizing. Oh, I caught 1,400 people. No, you didn't, John. There was a lot of people involved in that. So I just don't like the guy just for a lot of reasons. We're better than that. I don't think we should stoop to that level, calling them the dirty laundries or attacking them like that. And I don't like what's happening at the house. I believe in law and order. I believe in the criminal justice system. I agree with you 100%. If I was their lawyer, like I did on my website, you'll see in the testimonial page, the rapper that I had who was charged with a big violent felony robbery with a gun. The first thing I did was call the 120 and I called a friend of mine in the squad to make sure we could do this, together, schedule it. Well, I'm walking him in. I brought him in. And like I said to you, the awesome responsibility and how, first of all, how flattered I was that he's putting his trust in me, that could have been the last day that he was a free man, for 25 years. And, but that's the right thing to do. And I would have done that. I would have done a lot of different things but I didn't know what he knows. And I don't want to really second guess him, but I agree with you. It all starts with going in, especially now that they put this bogus credit card thing in there. Get your evidence, get your interviews, start talking to the witnesses, use the process, because I do think a murder charge or some other, homicide charge is coming. And this is a perfect opportunity to get early discovery. force them to go to trial, waive it. I want to go right to trial. No motions necessary, judge. They got to give you a trial in 30 days. What does that mean? Call all those witnesses in who are doing this investigation. I think it was the dumbest thing the government has ever done in my eyes. And I also went through those documents. The way they're handling this, it's just so sloppy.
Joe, that was just a tactic to get him into custody. That's what I think. I know you're saying, I get your point. You're saying that you wouldn't, you don't like the idea of how they did it, but being, if I was the case detective on the case, I would have went right along with that. And regarding calling them the dirty laundries, I know you got your opinion about John Walsh. He's got a lot of media attention.
He's a moron.
But I'm sorry. I have to say, I wouldn't throw around that kind of disparaging remark about anyone just so easily, but I just feel like they had a obligation, a human obligation. The girl lived in their house for 2 years to answer those parents and say, we don't know where your daughter is. She never came back with Brian. And they didn't do that. That's the only thing that I think that they were obligated to at that point. And now, since this is going on, they're making themselves look worse and worse. And I still stick with that. I don't have any apologies for that. I'm not going to withdraw on calling them that. And listen, it is what it is.
Folks, if you haven't subscribed to Police Off the Cuff, please do so. Go on our YouTube, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, give us a thumbs up. We also have a Patreon that you can purchase. You can become a member of Police Off the Cuff. We also have a membership now with 4 different tiers. And, we could use your support. We just crossed 20,000 subscribers, and we're sort of new to the game as far as YouTube. We've been around maybe 7-8 months, but we're trying to build our audience. And if you like real crime stories from a police perspective with some of these great guests like Joe Murray here, who is also the dissenter, he's not on the same page as us, but that's fine because I don't want everyone to agree with us, and we see the other side of the story. And we appreciate all you guys in the chat too. As long as you keep it respectful, we like to hear what you're going to say, because as you can see, I bring it up all the time. And, it's important to have a different point of view. Guys, we're actually we're at an hour and 16 minutes. So as I usually do near the end of the show, I give everyone their last words. And I'll first go to you, Phil. Go ahead. You got last words?
Last words. This case is really tugging at the heartstrings of everyone. I told people earlier today when we did our promo at 2:00 to try and catch Duty Run show that Bill was on with the Bethunes, that they actually had video of the van, and that led the police, law enforcement, to the discovery of Gabby's body. He became emotional in that. We're human beings, just like everybody else. We put on a thick skin when we go through the police academy and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's tugging at the heartstrings of this case. Maybe I shouldn't have referred to them as the dirty laundries, but I'm going to stick with that. And, sometimes the emotion takes over a little bit. Joe agreed with me, I know, and Bill as well, with regard to the Murdaugh case, that he's probably, between the two of them, him and that guy Curtis, they're probably both full of baloney. Anyway, that we'll discuss that on a future episode. And, we're just hoping and praying that, listen, that neighborhood, that family doesn't have to go through this, the protest, the rallies in front of the Laundrie house. If this kid turns himself in, all of that will die down. And then the criminal justice system will take over. The wheels will turn. And let's just hope and pray for justice for Gabby Petito and her family.
Joe, final words?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bill. I love the show, and I want to thank all the people, not just in the live chat, but the comments section, and even duty runs. Like, I spent hours going back and forth with people. I learned so much from this community as a trial lawyer. I love to hear people's opinions and what things they're focusing on, because especially in this case, in this scenario, this domestic violence, I disagree 100%. So if I was trying that case, I'm throwing in the evidence that I think is good, but you're going to ignore it. So this is so valuable to me. Don't worried about that we don't agree. I love to hear this. I love to hear your opinions because you're looking at the same facts, the same video, the same scenario. And me as a former cop and lawyer, I have my opinion as to what are the important things. And you, as whoever you are, the general public, you have your opinion. But you know who's more important? You, because you're going to be the jurors who are going to decide this case. So I'm humbled by what I'm seeing and hearing. Nobody's wrong here. There's no wrong answers. It's all valuable to me. And Bill, if you don't mind, I just want to give a shout out to somebody. I saw Miss Atkinson, a new subscriber from England. It made me think of someone named Andy the Gabby Cabby. He's got a little channel, a couple hundred people. When I was in the hospital with this COVID and suffering, and one of our supporters contacted him, wrote him a letter and asked him to give me a shout out. It was just so nice. And I really appreciate it. So I sent a few people there. I'm like, my family, I said, please go to his channel, hit him a couple of thumbs up and subscribe. I love what he did. It was so nice. And I don't even know the guy. And it was just, it means so much. And I got so much support from this community. I love this community. And like I said, keep the comments coming. Don't worry if we don't agree. I love to hear what you're saying because it refocuses me as a trial lawyer, what our jurors looking at. So thank you. And thank you, Bill and Phil. It's always a pleasure.
It's great. It's great having you guys on the show. You know, someone in the chat, and sometimes I get a kick out of things in the chat because, look, I try to be respectful, but sometimes if I don't like someone, I say it. I do say it. And she listed 3 people. She goes, you know, you shouldn't say something about A and B and C. And what are you going to do tomorrow? I go, it depends who I don't like tomorrow. That'll be D. But I'm not going to hold it back because you don't like it. You know, if I think someone's unethical, I'm going to say it. If I think someone's a clown, I'm going to say it. If I think someone is doing something wrong, I'm going to say it. And if you don't like it, you know, well, I'm not for everyone. I used to say that to my detectives. You know, if you don't like me, you know, you can put in a transfer, you know.
Bill's an acquired taste.
Yeah, I'm an acquired taste. Or you can ask the boss to transfer me. You know, that's probably easier. But that never happened. So guys, you know, thank you guys all so much for listening to us. I hope that we sometimes impart some good knowledge on this stuff. At least we try to play devil's advocate a little bit and critique it from a, you know, educated point of view. And you can either agree with us or disagree with us. This is America, and that's what we're allowed to do, you know. So for all you police off the cuff fans, some of you guys don't like to be called fans. You'd rather be called subscribers. I'll call you whatever you want. Fan, subscriber. I like the word fan.
They're good people.
I like the word. Yes, subscribe, exactly. But I like the word fan too. So for all you guys listening tonight, and for all you people out there, and for Phil Grimaldi and Joe Murray, thank you very much and have a great night.
Stay safe, everyone.